Okay, so this video is going to be related to using a timer in your program. And the scenario that I'm going to use for this tutorial is the tutorial which does a missile firing. So you can go rewatch that if you want to do this with me. Otherwise, you can just watch and see the ideas. It's not that complicated of an idea, but it is a little bit different. So in the program right now, so you can see what I'm using, there is, if I run this program currently, there's Zargon and there's Boron, and nothing's happening on the screen. At some point, should I hit the space bar, a missile will fire. Boom. All right, and it will hit Zargon, and I get 1,000 points. Okay, and that's the program. Okay, so if you want to have a timer in here, for example, maybe you wanted something in your game to happen at a certain point in the game or after a certain number of seconds. Okay, we can do that. Okay, and so a timer is, and there's lots of ways of doing timer, and this is just a very simple timer, but we're going to use the fact that you guys remember that the update and the draw methods execute 60 times a second pretty accurately for the level of game that we're doing. Okay, and so one thing that we can do, and I'll let you think about this a little bit, is what if we made a variable, and it's just an integer, and we called it timer, and it starts out at 0. Okay, and if I just in the middle of the update method just increased, let me get rid of some of this code here, just increase the value of that variable by 1 just during the game, just right there. Let's do it right now. Timer equals timer plus 1. If I just did that and I ran it, how fast would timer increase? Okay, and hopefully you're saying to yourself, well, it should increase about 60 times a second. So let's try this. I'm gonna just very quickly put the timer on the screen, and let's see. Timer. We'll put it. All right, let's run this. Okay, and so we could get a timer and check it, but it's probably pretty close to every 1 second it gets to 60. All right, and so if you think about that, you now have a number which you can use as a guide, as a timer, meaning, hey, once it hits, 1,500, that's this much time that's gone by. Or hey, when it hits 2,000, do this. And you know it's not going to happen until right now, right? And so that's how, so it's just an integer variable, okay? But I'll show you how you can use it. But the fact that it's increasing continuously 60 times a second, and the reason it's doing that again is because it's in the middle of the update method, and the update method executes 60 times a second, or pretty doggone close to it. And so we know that after 1 second the value of timer should be 60. After 2 seconds it should be 120. After 3 seconds 180, and that's pretty solid. Okay, and so so you can use this just as a timer in your game. And you can go backwards. You can start at 1,000 and do -1, right? And then you can just display that on the screen. And so there's a couple of tricks you can do while we're here. So right now it goes up to like, so since it's going 60 times a second, but it's displaying just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the whole thing. One thing you could do is when you displayed it, what if you divided the value by 60? You have to think about that for a second. What would that do to the value of 60? Because it starts at 1, 2, 3, and eventually it gets to 60, and then 61, 62, and it gets to 120, 180. So does it make sense that that would display 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Because you divide the value by 60 because it's executing 60 times a second, because it's increasing 60 times a second. So every 1 second it hits a multiple of 60. All right, so that's something you can do in there, and so you can use that to display things. Anyway, so while we're doing this, in this game, in this little program right here, once we hit a space bar, it actually fired a missile. What if in addition to that we had it fire a missile, let's say after 5 seconds? Just so you get onto level 2, and 5 seconds later something happens. Well, in this game, we're going to have the missile automatically fires. Okay, and to make the missile fire, all we have to do in this, because of the code we already have written from the previous tutorial, all we have to do is change the value of missile fired to be equal to true. I can show you. Yeah. So if you change the value of missile fired to be equal to true, that activates the missile firing. And if you change it back to false, it makes it stop. So in the code we've got right now, we said, hey, if she ever hits the space bar, activate the missile firing, make missile fired equal to true. Well, so now we have another condition which we can use to activate missile firing. So yeah, if she hits the space bar, immediately missile fired equals true. But we can also use our timer. Okay, and so remember, the timer is starting at 0, and it's going up to 1, it's going up to 60, 120, 180, 240, all that kind of stuff. And so, in fact, let's get rid of the little divided by 60 thing, so we can remember that there we go. Okay, so if we run this code, right, so we see the value of timer. Okay, so we can use that. And if you wanted to wait for till I want the missile to fire right now, right? So what would that number be? And so let's do that right quick. So let's say, okay, after whatever 5 seconds. Okay, well, what would the value of timer be after approximately 5 seconds? It starts at 0, goes up by 1, 60 times a second. So after 1 second, it's 60. After 2 seconds, 120. 3 seconds, 180. 4 seconds, 240. 5 seconds, 300. Oh, even so the value of timer is 300. We know 5 seconds has gone by. That's interesting. Okay, so what if we use that? If timer ever equals 300, then missile fired equals true. So either you can hit a space bar or you can wait 5 seconds. Either way, missile fire is going to be true. That's interesting. Let's try that. Let's see if it works. Run. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Okay, so you used a timer to activate something. And because we knew the timer was increasing by a steady value continuously, and we knew how often that rate was, 60 times a second, we know that at some point that timer has to get to 300, and you can alter that value. And then if you wanted to reset that timer so that the timer restarts itself, well, no problem. Start it back at 0, because that resets it again. So what that means is every 5 seconds, and then actually we're going to do mx equals 0 and my equals 0, so the missile starts. But every 5 seconds, this missile would fire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. And it fires, right? Every 5 seconds it fires. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You can use that in there. And so you can kind of use that as a guide. So anyway, that is an introduction to how you can use timers in your game.